Polity teaches us how democracies function. The internet teaches us how democracies feel. And somewhere between the Constitution and the comment section lies a humble meme. Imagine spending 6 months reading over 1,000 pages of polity, only to realize that millions of people are debating constitutional issues through SpongeBob memes. Now, you might be wondering, why are we suddenly talking about memes? Because memes are no longer just internet jokes. They've become a part of how we communicate, how we express ourselves, and increasingly, how we participate in public life. In fact, they've started showing up in some of the world's most serious protests. Which raises an interesting question. Why are funny, goofy, seemingly meaningless memes appearing alongside slogans, placards, and political movements? How can something designed to make us laugh also make us question authority, unite strangers, or even influence public discourse? That's exactly what we're going to decode in this video. But before we understand why memes matter, we first need to answer a much simpler question. What exactly is a meme? Most of us think of a meme as a funny image with a clever caption that spreads across the internet in a matter of hours. And that's not wrong. But the idea of a meme is much older than the internet itself. The term meme was introduced in 1976 by evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene. Dawkins was looking for a cultural equivalent of a gene. Just as genes pass biological information from one generation to the next, memes pass cultural information. Ideas, habits, beliefs, symbols, catchphrases, and behaviors through imitation. In other words, a meme is anything that spreads from one mind to another. The internet simply gave memes their fastest vehicle yet. Today, a meme isn't just entertainment. It's a unit of culture, one that can spread ideas, share opinions, build communities, and, as we'll soon discover, sometimes even fuel protests. Now, here's the catch. Most people think memes spread because they're funny. But that's only half the story. People don't share memes because they laugh at them. They share memes because they see themselves in them. Humor's just the vehicle. The real engine is recognition, emotional validation, and belonging. Let's break that down. 1. Recognition. That's literally me. Our brains are obsessed with patterns. The moment we come across a meme that perfectly captures an experience we've had, our brain goes, wait, I've lived this. That tiny moment of recognition feels surprisingly rewarding. Why? Because the meme has managed to express something we felt but never quite knew how to put into words. Psychologists explain this through concepts like pattern recognition, familiarity bias, cognitive ease, and even mirror neurons, which help us empathize with experiences that feel familiar. A relatable meme can compress an entire life experience into a single image and 10 words. Honestly, that's more efficient than some therapy sessions. 2. Emotional validation. I'm not the only one? Think about procrastination. You could write, I'm overwhelmed by my responsibilities, which causes task avoidance due to cognitive overload. Or, a meme simply says, I'll start tomorrow. And suddenly thousands of people comment. Same. That tiny interaction sends a powerful psychological message. You're not weird. You're not alone. Humans have a deep need to know that our emotions are shared. Memes satisfy that need almost instantly. 3. Humor as emotional coping. Here's something fascinating. Psychologists have long argued that humor helps us cope with stress. Memes don't magically solve our problems. Your deadlines are still due.
your exams are still approaching, and your laundry still isn't folded.
But somehow, they make those problems feel a little lighter. Anxiety, embarrassment, failure, loneliness, stress. A meme turns them into something we can laugh at instead of silently carrying alone. Humor doesn't erase pain. It simply makes it easier to carry.
4. Social proof. Everyone else feels this too. Have you ever seen a meme with 2 million likes and thought, okay, this isn't just me? That's social proof. When thousands or even millions of people react to the same meme, our brain interprets it as evidence that this experience is widely shared. And suddenly, our feelings feel more normal, more valid, and less isolating. 5. Identity formation. The memes we share say a lot about us. They're not just jokes. They're tiny identity cards. Every meme quietly communicates what we believe, what annoys us, what kind of humor we enjoy, and which communities we belong to. In a way, your meme folder is basically your personality in JPEG format. 6. Memes build communities. Every community develops its own meme language. UPSC aspirants have exam memes. Doctors have medical memes. Engineers have coding memes. Gamers have gaming memes. Football fans have football memes. Economists somehow make inflation funny.
If you understand the meme, you're part of the group. If you don't, the comment section feels like it's speaking an entirely different language. Memes become digital badges of belonging. 7. Social identity theory. Psychology offers another explanation. According to social identity theory, people define themselves not just as individuals, but also through the groups they belong to. Every time a community laughs at the same meme, that shared identity becomes a little stronger. The joke isn't just funny anymore. It's become a symbol of belonging. 8. So why do memes go viral? Because they satisfy several psychological needs all at once. A single meme can provide recognition, emotional validation, humor, identity, belonging, social connection. When we hit the share button, we're rarely saying, look how funny this is. More often, we're saying, this is me. And that brings us to the most important question of this video. If memes can influence how we think, if they can influence how we feel, if they can shape our identities, and even create communities, can they also influence public behavior, political movements, and public policy? The answer is yes. And that's where memes stop being entertainment and start becoming a serious subject of psychology, sociology, and public policy. Because once a meme stops reflecting one person's experience and starts reflecting millions of people's emotions, it has the power to influence real-world action. Which raises some fascinating questions. Why do some public campaigns become meme-driven movements? Can memes increase civic participation? Can governments use memes ethically for public awareness? How do memes transform online frustration into offline protest? And where do we draw the line between political humor, misinformation, and manipulation? To answer those questions, we first need to understand how a joke becomes a movement. From laughter to protest, how does a meme become a movement? At this point, you might be thinking, okay, I get why memes are relatable, but how does that lead to people protesting on the streets? The answer lies in something psychologists call collective identity. Think about it. Every protest begins with a feeling: anger, frustration, disappointment, hope. The problem is that emotions are personal.
A protest, however, requires those personal emotions to become shared emotions. And that's exactly where memes come in. Imagine you're frustrated about a new policy. You don't know if anyone else feels the same. Then one day, you see a meme about it. It perfectly captures what you've been thinking. You laugh. You like it. Then you notice something interesting. 10,000 other people have liked it too. Thousands have commented exactly. Finally, someone said it. This is so true. Suddenly, your private frustration doesn't feel private anymore. It feels collective. And that's a psychological turning point.
Because people rarely act alone. They act when they believe others feel the same way. This is known as pluralistic ignorance. Sometimes, thousands of people privately disagree with something, but each person assumes they're the only one. A viral meme breaks that illusion. It tells everyone, no, you're not the only one. And the moment people realize they're not alone, collective action becomes much more likely.
But memes don't just reveal shared emotions. They also spread them. Psychologists call this emotional contagion. Just like yawning or laughing when someone else laughs, emotions can spread through networks. One angry meme becomes 100.
100 become 1,000. Soon, an entire online community is reacting to the same issue. The emotion becomes contagious. And then something fascinating happens. The moment stops being just content. It becomes a symbol. Think about history. Every movement has had symbols. The spinning wheel, the raised fist, the peace sign, a protest slogan. In the digital age, sometimes the symbol is a meme. A simple image that instantly communicates an entire political message. No long speech required. This is why memes are so powerful. A policy report might take 30 pages to explain a problem. A meme can communicate the same frustration in 3 seconds. Of course, it won't capture all the nuance, but that's not its job. Its job is to grab attention, create recognition, and start conversations.
In communication theory, there's an idea called framing. The way an issue is presented changes how people think about it. Memes are masters of framing. The same event can be portrayed as heroic, ridiculous, unfair, or inspiring, all depending on the meme. In other words, memes don't just reflect reality. Sometimes they shape how we interpret it.
Now, here's something important. A meme, by itself, doesn't cause a protest, just as a matchstick doesn't cause a forest fire. But, under the right conditions, existing public frustration, social media amplification, shared identity, and a triggering event, that tiny digital spark can help ignite something much larger. Which is why governments, political parties, activists, journalists, and researchers have all started paying attention to something they once dismissed as just internet jokes. Because in today's world, the distance between a meme and a movement is sometimes just a few clicks. Let's understand this through something we've all witnessed recently. Over the last few years, many youth-led protests haven't just happened on the streets. They've unfolded on Instagram, on X, on Reddit, and especially through memes. Whatever may be the issue,
one thing remained constant. Memes arrived almost immediately. At first glance, they looked like ordinary internet jokes. Funny, sarcastic, completely unserious. But beneath the humor, they were doing something surprisingly powerful. They were helping thousands of strangers realize, I'm not the only one who feels this way. And that's where psychology enters the story. Every protest begins with an emotion: frustration, anger, a need for change. The challenge is that emotions are personal. A movement, however, requires those emotions to become collective. Memes act as that bridge. Imagine you're upset about an issue. You don't know if anyone else cares. Then you open Instagram. Your feed is flooded with memes saying exactly what you've been thinking. Thousands of comments read, "Finally, someone said it. This is literally me. I've been feeling the same." In that moment, your private frustration transforms into a shared identity. Psychologists call this social identity formation. Behavioral scientists call it social proof. The more people engage with a meme, the stronger the impression that this issue matters, and people like me care about it. But memes do something else as well. They lower the barrier to participation. Not everyone can write an op-ed. Not everyone can speak at a protest. Not everyone has thousands of followers. But almost everyone can share a meme. With one tap, people participate in a conversation that feels much bigger than themselves. In behavioral economics, this is known as reducing friction. When participation becomes easier, more people join in. Of course, this isn't always positive. The same meme that spreads awareness can also spread misinformation. The same humor that unites people can deepen polarization. A meme doesn't verify facts. It amplifies emotions. And that's why memes have become such powerful tools in the digital age. They don't replace protests. They don't create grievances. But they amplify existing emotions, strengthen group identity, and keep public attention alive. That's why researchers today no longer dismiss memes as just internet jokes. They're increasingly studied as tools of political communication, behavioral influence, and digital collective action. And this isn't unique to India. We've seen the same psychological patterns during the protests in Nepal, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and elsewhere. Different countries, different causes, different cultures, but the same psychology. When people begin sharing the same meme, they often begin sharing the same identity. And sometimes, that shared identity becomes the beginning of a movement.
By now, we've established something surprising. Memes aren't just jokes. They influence attention. They shape emotions. They build identities. They mobilize people. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If memes are this powerful, who gets to use that power? Activists? Political parties? Influencers? Governments? The answer is all of them. Imagine you're the government's communication advisor. You've spent crores on awareness campaigns. Nobody watched them. Meanwhile, a teenager with Canva and Wi-Fi reaches 5 million people overnight. What do? Ignore memes? Or learn from them?
Behavioral economists have known something for decades. People don't change behavior because they're given more information. They change behavior when information changes how they think and feel. And memes might just be one of the cheapest behavioral interventions ever created. We've spent the entire video asking, why do people create memes? Maybe we've been asking the wrong question. The more interesting question is, what happens when institutions begin creating them? Public policy has always had one invisible enemy. Not corruption, not bureaucracy, attention. Because a policy people don't understand is almost as ineffective as a policy that doesn't exist. Memes have solved one problem governments have struggled with for decades. How do you make millions of people care for 5 seconds? For example, we've learned how memes influence us. We've seen how movements use them. We've discussed how governments could use them. But maybe the most important question isn't about memes at all. It's about us. If a single image can shape what we laugh at, what we believe, what we protest, and what we share, who is really in control? The person making the meme? The algorithm showing it? Or the human mind that's wired to relate to it? And if you like this video, maybe give that little like button a tap. Share it with someone who spends way too much time on the internet and somehow still calls it research. And if you enjoyed decoding the strange little connections between psychology, society, politics, and everyday life, subscribe to Nerd on Mute, because there's a lot more weird stuff hiding in plain sight. See you in the next one.